Hello, Gerhard Bloom here, looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the whole social justice program. All right, so undoubtedly, many of you watched Joe Biden's speech uh, regarding the Buffalo attack. Now, that attack was an awful display of racist hatred, and it's inexcusable. Uh, there are very few people anywhere on the globe who have any indulgence or sympathy for that kind of murderous rage. So it's rightly condemned. What was utterly inappropriate and completely inexcusable is Joe Biden parroting this absolute nonsense that white nationalism is the greatest threat to the United States. It simply is not. It is a lie. So why does Joe Biden find it in his heart to visit Buffalo and to grieve the loss of those lives lost when he could not be bothered to spend the time and attention on the Waukesha attack? The Waukesha attack killed 6 people, and injured 62 others. 62 others were struck by a SUV hurtling through space at a parade of little old ladies and little children. Why didn't he go? Oh, why didn't he go to the attack in, where was it? Boulder. That's right, Boulder, Colorado, about a year ago, when a gunman killed 10 people, 10 people, the same number that was killed in this Buffalo attack, and Joe Biden couldn't be bothered to go. Well, that's easy. That's easily explained because the shooter was a Syrian-born individual, and the Waukesha attack was a black man with a murderous hatred of whites. So Biden is continuing to pawn off this narrative that the greatest threat of terrorism in the United States is from white nationalists. It's a lie. As I mentioned before, I was a senior intelligence analyst, a senior strategic intelligence analyst, and I worked for years at Canada's Integrated Terrorism Assessment Centre. We looked at the terrorist threat to Canada and the United States from across the globe. And I can assure you that neither then nor now was white nationalist terrorism the greatest threat. It's not. Um, this is to reinforce this narrative that there's a problem with whiteness. Across university campuses and the corporate world, and in the high schools and junior high and elementary schools, we are being told that there's a problem with whiteness. Can you imagine if the same attitude was taken with respect to blackness? Corporations are telling their employees they have to fight whiteness. This is disgusting, and it is tribalizing. This will fuel the very racist divisions that we are trying to combat here. We need to stop judging people by the basis of the color of their skin or accidental features of their identity. Now, where did this all arise? Well, this arose through leftist ideology being funneled into the schooling system, particularly at the universities, and then as university graduates went out into the workplace or back into academia or into the teachers' colleges, this cancerous ideology spread. And it's not just a cancerous ideology with respect to whiteness. It's also a war on Christianity. Any attack on Christians and Christian belief is acceptable because don't you know it's enlightened? Don't we know about the evils laid at the feet of Christianity? Well, here's a riddle. Here's a riddle you need to resolve. Did anything about the teaching of Christ encourage religious warfare? There were religious wars, Christian religious wars, but there is nothing in the doctrine of Christianity, the teachings of Christ, that encourages or is at all compatible with Christianity, with Christian teachings. And the dated crimes of Christianity are just that. They're long since dated. The Catholic child abuse and rape scandal. Yes, this is a scandal, and everybody acknowledges that. There were people within the Catholic Church that failed in their basic moral duties to protect children. But there is nothing in Christian teaching that endorses or encourages the rape or sexual exploitation of children. This is not true in Islam. In Islam, you are permitted to marry children as young as 9 years old. And this isn't children from parents from two families agreeing that when their children grow up, they will marry. No, 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 no. This is 50, 60-year-old men taking young girls and consigning them to a life of domestic and sexual slavery. So this is an absolute slanderous lie against Christianity, and yet any critical remark about Islam, well, that's Islamophobia, because we, from our position of cultural isolation, can't presume to understand the cultural practices and the deep meanings these practices have for these people. Well, that's an absolute lie. It's an absolute lie. I know when there's problems in our communities, and I know when there's problems in other communities. Now, it doesn't take a moral genius to understand that genital mutilation, child marriages, the stoning to death of women, these are moral horrors. And yes, there are rapists and murderers in our societies, and they are punished. This notion that Western imperialism is the answer to who caused all of the world's problems. Deluded leftists, university students, really, they have no understanding of Genghis Khan? Genghis Khan slaughtered hundreds of thousands in sweeping across Asia and beyond. And the Muslim jihad killed millions of people. Millions of people were slaughtered in the spread of Islam. Violent, murderous, pillaging, rapes, sexual slavery, the beheadings, and the Crusades. Well, the Crusades were several endeavors to rescue the Holy Lands, lands that had been in Christian possession and Jewish possession hundreds of years before Islam ever arose. So that's an absolute lie. And let's look at other murderous villains throughout history. These are not white, or they're not Christian. Do you ever hear of Chairman Mao? Mao Zedong killed millions of his own people, millions of Chinese people, starved to death, murdered, tortured, executed. Absolutely horrific. And Pol Pot and his regime in Cambodia killed millions, about 1 million people or more. Ruthless beyond belief. So this notion that the West is uniquely guilty of history's evils it's just beyond all understanding and beyond all indulgence. Why is the leftists and Biden parroting this nonsense? Because it wants to win the favor of racial minorities, and it courts this belief that blacks and Hispanics and other racial minorities are being oppressed. How is it the case that millions of people from Africa have come to the United States and they have succeeded? Now, if it was racially oppressive, why would they bother to come in the first place? We have to get rid of this poisonous, divisive ideology. Joe Biden should have condemned racism. Racism, whether it's black racist or white racist, it's ugly and it's toxic. And this cancerous critical race theory is polarizing and re-tribalizing the United States and Canada, and it leads nowhere good. For further discussions on these matters and other important issues, I hope you will check out my YouTube videos, my other videos in the series, and check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. It's available on Amazon. Once again, it's important not because I wrote it because the issues are important. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.